Welcome to Contemporary State of Affairs, the podcast where we dive deep into the most urgent geopolitical conflicts shaping our world today. I'm your host, Inebus, and today's episode, The Breaking Point, Iran and Israel at War, is one you won't want to miss. We're exploring the escalating confrontation between Iran and Israel, two nations now locked in what could become the most dangerous regional conflict in decades, possibly even triggering a wider global crisis. In this episode, we'll break down the latest developments, analyze the rhetoric from both sides at the United Nations, and explore what this means for international law, nuclear proliferation, and global stability. Let's begin with the facts. The attack that changed everything. On the night of 12th to the 13th of June, 2025, Israel launched a massive military operation against multiple targets across Iran. Dubbed Operation Rising Lion, the strikes were described by Israeli officials as a preemptive act of self-defense aimed at dismantling Iran's nuclear program and neutralizing its leadership. According to official statements from Tel Aviv, the mission was carried out with precision, targeting three key areas. 1. High-ranking military and nuclear officials, including the head of Iran's armed forces. 2. Missile infrastructure, particularly long-range ballistic missile systems capable of reaching thousands of kilometers. 3. The Natanz nuclear facility, a site monitored by the International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, and central to Iran's uranium enrichment efforts. Israeli leaders claim that Iran was within days of producing enough enriched uranium for multiple nuclear weapons, and that time had run out. But Tehran sees it differently. Iran's response: a declaration of state terrorism. Iran wasted no time in condemning the attacks. In an emergency session at the United Nations Security Council, Iranian representatives labeled the assault as a flagrant violation of international law, accusing Israel of state-sponsored terrorism and calling for immediate global condemnation. They pointed to several key issues: targeting civilian infrastructure, including residential areas, killing hundreds, including women and children, attacking safeguarded nuclear sites, which violates numerous international treaties, including the UN Charter and the Non-Proliferation Treaty, violating Iraqi airspace, raising further concerns about regional sovereignty. Iran also accused the United States of complicity, citing intelligence support and arms transfers to Israel. They argued that American backing enabled the aggression and warned that silence from the international community would only embolden further violations. Iranian officials emphasized their right to self-defense under Article 51 of the UN Charter, promising a firm, proportional, and lawful response at a time, place, and manner of their choosing. Legal and moral implications. So, what does international law say? Under the UN Charter, specifically Article 2(4), member states are prohibited from using force against the territorial integrity or political independence of another nation. However, Article 51 allows for self-defense if an armed attack occurs. This raises a critical question: was Israel acting in legitimate self-defense, or did it cross the line into illegal aggression? The International Atomic Energy Agency, IAEA, has expressed concern over the strikes on nuclear facilities like Natanz. These sites are under strict safeguards, and any damage could have catastrophic radiological consequences not just for Iran, but potentially for the entire region. Additionally, the Geneva Conventions prohibit targeting civilians and non-military infrastructure. Reports of civilian casualties and widespread destruction in urban centers will likely fuel further legal scrutiny. A history of tensions and missed warnings. To understand how we got here, we need to rewind. 4 years, Iran has been enriching uranium far beyond civilian levels, building up its ballistic missile capabilities, and funding militant proxies across the Middle East. Meanwhile, Israel has consistently warned that a nuclear-capable Iran poses an existential threat. Warnings that went unheeded by much of the international community. Despite repeated calls from Israel and others for action, the Security Council remained largely silent, allowing Iran to push boundaries without consequence. Back in 1981, when Israel bombed Iraq's Osirak nuclear reactor, the Security Council unanimously condemned the act via Resolution 487. But enforcement never followed, setting a precedent of inaction that some argue has led us to today's crisis. Fast forward to 2025, and history appears to be repeating itself, with far greater stakes. What happens next? As of the recording of this episode, Iran has already begun its retaliation. Dozens of conventional ballistic missiles have struck Israeli cities, killing and injuring civilians. While these are not nuclear, they signal a new phase in the conflict and raise terrifying questions about escalation. What happens if Iran retaliates with more advanced weaponry? Could this spiral into a full-scale war involving other regional powers like Lebanon, Syria, or Yemen? And perhaps most chillingly, what if Iran had access to nuclear weapons? Imagine a world where those same missiles carried radioactive payloads. Where entire cities could be wiped off the map in minutes. That's the nightmare scenario Israel claims it acted to prevent. But critics argue that preemptive war sets a dangerous precedent, one that could justify future unilateral actions by any nation claiming imminent threat. The global repercussions. This isn't just a regional issue. This is a test of the global security order. If powerful states can bypass the Security Council and launch unilateral strikes based on perceived threats, what does that mean for international peace and diplomacy? Already, tensions are rising globally. Allies of both countries are taking sides. Some call for restraint, others demand justice. China, Russia, and several Islamic nations have condemned Israel's actions and called for an emergency Security Council meeting. The US, meanwhile, has defended its ally, framing the strike as a necessary evil. The IAEA is scrambling to assess the damage at Natanz, fearing potential radiation leaks. Environmental experts warn that even minor contamination could spread rapidly depending on wind patterns. Meanwhile, oil prices are spiking, and markets are reacting nervously to the possibility of a broader conflict engulfing the Middle East. Lessons from the past, warnings for the future. History teaches us that silence enables aggression. From Nazi Germany to modern rogue regimes, the failure to confront threats early often leads to larger wars and greater suffering. But history also shows that unilateral military action without global consensus risks destabilizing the very order meant to protect us all. Israel believes it acted to save lives. Iran believes it was attacked without cause. Both sides see themselves as victims, and that's precisely why de-escalation is so difficult. Unless there is swift diplomatic intervention, the world may soon witness a conflict unlike anything seen since the Cold War. Is there still hope for peace? Yes, but only if the international community acts quickly. The United Nations Security Council must step in to mediate, condemn disproportionate violence, and restore dialogue before it's too late. Sanctions, inspections, and diplomatic pressure must be used to rein in both sides, especially Iran's nuclear ambitions. At the same time, the world must acknowledge Israel's legitimate security concerns and work toward a framework that ensures mutual deterrence without total annihilation. Because the alternative is unthinkable. Final thoughts. A world on edge. This is more than just a fight between two nations. It's a battle for the soul of international law, for the sanctity of diplomacy, and for the survival of millions. As this story continues to unfold, one thing is clear: we are living through a historic moment. A moment that will define not only the future of the Middle East, but the credibility of the global system designed to keep the peace. Always view contemporary state of affairs for ongoing updates, expert analysis, and other exclusives and analysis around the world. Until next time, I'm Inibu. Subscribe and stay informed, stay safe, and remember, the world is watching.